Hello YouTube, it's Ryan here with Hobbies of Man once again, and today we are doing a book review, which has been something we haven't done in a long time. I think the last time we did a book review was Wheel of Time book 3, all the way back in like July or August, if I remember correctly. I'm not really sure, but we're back for a book review. Today we're looking at Hounded, book 1 in the Druid Chronicles, which is actually pretty cool. I like that a lot. Now, this is written by Kevin Hearn, as you guys can see right there, and is published by Del Rey under Ballantine Books. Yeah, the demographic for this, I guess, would be adult fiction, adult fantasy. It definitely has adult content that is fade to black, though, so teenagers could read this. I don't really know if this is something that appeals to teenagers, but I mean, I guess it does. I'm 22 years old, so if it appeals to me, it probably appeals to the 17 and 18-year-olds, I would assume. But I'm not too sure. So yeah, the genre here are urban fantasy and supernatural. There's an element of action and mythology here as well, so I guess you could say that those are genres for that as well. But I think this is definitely urban fantasy through and through. That is like the main aspect of it, and it doesn't have an adaptation as far as I know. But this would be a really good IP to kind of get an adaptation for it. Like, I'm thinking like something like CW level, right? Like a TV show with maybe better budget than what a CW TV show would be able to do would be pretty good. I mean, there really isn't anything too crazy. I mean, there's like CGI heavy that needs to happen. There's quite a few things here and there, but it's not too crazy. This would still be a pretty easy kind of like interesting series to see in like a television show. I definitely would say it's something that a CW kind of network would be able to pick up, but I'm just curious that there hasn't been an adaptation for this. I think it just doesn't have enough hype around it to be like, oh, let's make a TV show out of it, right? So yeah, the premise here is basically this immortal druid guy, his name's Atticus O'Sullivan, lives a kind of very relaxed life in Arizona, away from the old gods, basically. And somehow, this old enemy of his finds him again and starts sending people after him, right? And his past comes alive in this little town of Arizona. And now something wicked this way comes, and it comes for Atticus. So, pretty simple kind of premise here, but it's actually very well executed, very nicely done. So yeah, generally I did really like this book. I was genuinely surprised by how immensely enjoyable it was, because it actually starts relatively slow. The first, I don't know, 5 or 6 chapters are kind of easygoing, but very kind of like setup-y, right? They don't really dive in too fast, but you get past the first 30 pages, and then it's like, okay, time to get going. And it's really good. It's very interesting, and it's not all too similar to Dresden Files beyond its general like urban fantasy-esqueness. So if you didn't really like Dresden Files, you probably like this. But I mean, they're similar in a sense, but the kind of way that they go about it is a bit different. But yeah, let's get into the proper review here. The plotline is immensely good. It's relatively simple. It's just a guy lives in a small town, and bad guys are coming after him, right? And they come in waves, basically, right? There's this one group of bad guys, and then a slightly stronger group of bad guys, and then it builds up to the big bad, right? And it's good. It's very interesting. There's quite a few kind of general battle plot kind of things, right? Like, okay, prepare for this battle. Okay, prepare for this other battle stuff and stuff like that. But then it kind of also has this element of human tension between Atticus and this group of witches, and then between Atticus and this nice old Irish lady that's like his friend. And he doesn't really know how to interact with her when she finds out about him and stuff like that. And then there's this element of like people tension that is kind of different. It's more of like the political posturing kind, right? There's these cops that are kind of being controlled by the big bad, that are pushing Atticus to do things he doesn't really want to do. And there's this kind of like political undertone about how they're going through things, like political machinations kind of thing. Very, very interesting. It kind of adds a nice kind of different aspect of tension, different kind of action to the story that kind of balances it out really nicely and makes it a very interesting kind of read overall. Very, very cool stuff. I really did enjoy everything about this. The fights are kind of short, but very meaningful. They have this kind of element of like weight to them. Like, okay, this is quick, but the repercussions of it are actually quite large. So I thought that was really good. And it reminded me of the first fight in Star Wars in like the fourth movie, where Obi-Wan and Darth Vader are fighting, and it's very slow, but the battle actually happens really fast, right? And the fight ends, and the results of the fight actually create this ripple of effects that, you know, causes the rest of the story. So it's very, very interesting in that sense. I thought it was very, very similar. So yeah, I think the coolest part here is probably the characters, though. So let's talk about them a little bit. So the first character and the main character is Atticus O'Sullivan, right? He's this 21-year-old. His body is biologically 21, but he's like 21 centuries old. So this guy is like older than Christianity, older than fucking everything in the fucking earth right now, right? And he's very kind of cool. He has this kind of like, I don't know, very relaxed way of being, but also kind of vaguely like hippie-esque, I guess, which I guess is kind of like the way people think of druids. But he's also kind of very pragmatic, and he's very interesting. I guess this is a situation that happens due to this character being ancient as all get out. Like, he has a lot of different aspects to him, a lot of kind of layers to him, right? And I really enjoy when we peel back some of those layers and we get to see a slightly different version of Atticus peek out. I think it's very, very good. I really enjoyed how he was built up as a character. And then there's Oberon, who is his dog, but because he's a druid, he has like telepathic ability to connect with this dog and talk with him. And so Oberon kind of happens to be the buddy to his cop, or the kind of like sidekick to his hero character. And Oberon is a very, very funny character. I really love him a lot. His jokes always land. The kind of rambunctious energy that the author managed to give this dog character that can speak is very good. It kind of does have that what's it called? Like high energy dog vibe to it, even though it kind of is spoken like a person. I think it's very, very cool. I really like that a lot. I think it was very, very well done. And then there's a bunch of gods, right? There's Angus Og, who is like the main god of the Tuatha De Danann. I had to practice that. I think that's how you say it, which is like the pantheon of Celtic gods, right? He's kind of like one of the big ones, or one of the strongest ones. I don't think he's really like the main one. There's also the Morrigan, who is the death goddess. There's Fleetish, who is the goddess of the hunt. And then there's Bridget, who I think is the queen of the gods in the Celtic thing, or at least in this version of it, in the pantheon. And it's very interesting. They all show up. Angus is the bad guy of the series. And the Morrigan is kind of like the closest thing to like a friendly god that Atticus has, if like, as far as I understand it. She has a deal with him, and that's why he doesn't die, but there's also other situations that kind of have to do with this. And Fleetish and Bridget are kind of like neutral, but like friendly on the, like neutral on the side of the friendly to Atticus, but since they're goddesses and they're kind of a little bit more complex than Morrigan, they kind of end up having kind of not great relationships with Atticus all the time. So it's kind of interesting how he kind of balances out all of these gods and how to act with them and stuff like that. It's very, very cool. There's a few other gods that showed up, but Angus, Morrigan, Fleetish, and Bridget are probably the most important ones. And then there's some like immortal Viking dude. who's a vampire called Leaf. I think he had to do something with Leaf the Red, which is like the guy that moved to Iceland. And then there's a pack of werewolves run by this guy called Magnus and his second in command called Hal. And they kind of help out Atticus quite a bit. So it's very, very interesting. And there's a lot of characters. There's also a coven of witches and this chick called Grinuale, I think is what her name is. I don't know. The names and kind of situations that arise are kind of difficult to pronounce because all of them are in like Irish, Celtic, whatever that language is called. I don't know. But still, characters very, very cool. I like them a lot. In terms of world building, it's really good. It meshes a lot of stuff together. We have witches from all sorts of places. We have the Celtic pantheon of gods, obviously. But we also have like gods from other kind of places. Now, apparently, in this universe, Thor, the god of thunder, is like this asshat frat dude. And I think that's funny. I don't know. It's just really cool. It's just hilarious. I don't know. And, there's mythology of a lot of different places. There's a lot of different creatures that are kind of there, that are kind of like fey creatures, which is really cool. There's also some badass magic swords. So that's pretty awesome. It's kind of like Clarence and the one from King Arthur. What was it called? Excalibur and stuff like that. But these are kind of like older than those kind of swords. So it's very interesting. And in terms of fan service or adult content, there's a little bit of it. So all of the women, except for the old widow lady, are basically like the hottest people on earth. And Atticus likes all of them a lot. And a lot of them happen to be goddesses, so that kind of makes sense. So there's definitely passages of the book where it's like describing how hot a person is. And then there's kind of definitely adult situations that occur, but most of them are fade to black. They kind of start and then stop, fades to black, changes chapter, stuff like that. I mean, it's really not all that kind of raunchy or anything, but if you're someone that's kind of against stuff like that, this is maybe not a book for you, although the fan service aspect is kind of pretty minimal. So yeah. In terms of rating, this is a 5 out of 5. It was immensely enjoyable. I started reading it at 7 or 8 p.m. and I stayed up all the way till 3 a.m. to finish it. And I thought it was really, really enjoyable. Just loved it so much. It was really, really wonderful once I actually got into it. Very, very nice stuff. I really, really did like it a lot. It was really, really just wonderful for real. Super, super enjoyable. There was moments I was laughing out loud. Thanks to Alberon, and I really, really liked it. So, yeah, I definitely recommend this title. I think it's good. If you like supernatural things, if you watch a bunch of CW shows, and you're like, okay, this is cool, but this is a little too dramatic, I want to move up into something more interesting, this is probably a series for you. I think this is pretty good. It kind of has that same kind of vibe as something like the originals. Maybe not Vampire Diaries, but definitely originals. So, yeah. Similar titles to this, like I said, the originals, Vampire Diaries, basically any supernatural show that shows up on CW is going to be somewhat similar to this, but Dresden is probably the thing that is most like this. I think in the later books, once it kind of gets over the fact that Dresden is a detective, so he has to do detective things, and it kind of moves on into this kind of larger story, that's when they'll probably be similar. But Dresden Files is the closest thing to it anyways. There's another series that was a YA book that I read when I was younger. I think it's called The Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel. It's not really that similar, but there's kind of similar vibes. The whole idea that the gods are real and that there's a lot of immortal people running around. It's kind of similar in that sense. But I think that one, since it was YA, was more focused on this kind of chosen hero to save the world thing than this one is. This one is more like an adult that's fucking over all of this bullshit, and he has to kind of save the world because there's this asshole that's just bugging him about it. So it's kind of interesting. It's kind of fun. So yeah, that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you guys think, and let me know if there's any other urban fantasy series that are similar to this. I know there's quite a few that are kind of werewolf heavy, and most of them are kind of more aimed at women than guys. So I don't know if I really want to read those, but stuff like Dresden Files and this are pretty good. So if you guys know any other ones like this, please let me know. And yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. See you guys later.